5 times Jon Jones shocked the MMA world. The greatest of all time. This expression is present in every sport, and often many people argue about who these words are more suitable for. MMA is no exception. Most often mentioned are Pierre, Nurmagomedov, Anderson Silva, Demetrious Johnson. But most often, people tend to mention one person, whom even the head of the organization, Dana White, recognized. Good day, dear viewers. It's time to talk about the living mixed martial arts legend Jon Jones. We may soon see our favorite heavyweight fighter against champion Francis Ngannou. On this occasion, we propose to recall the most striking performances of the Bones in his career. Sit back and enjoy watching. We begin. 5th place. 2011 was truly a significant year for Jones. At the beginning of this year, Jon was given the rivals of the most difficult opponent at the time, Ryan Bader, who was on an impressive series of 5 victories in the strongest organization, and before that he won the 8th season of TUF. But in the end, we did not even see 2 full rounds in this confrontation. In the first round, Jones exhausted the opponent in the fight, and already in the second round, he beat the tired Ryan. At the last minute in the stalls, he caught the opponent and forced him to knock with the guillotine. But the most interesting thing was in the post-match interview. Joe Rogan told the 23-year-old fighter that the contender for the title, Rashad Evans, flew off the fight, and the honor to fight for the coveted gold goes to the winner of this battle. The young light heavyweight did not believe this turn and could not stand on his feet. After that, the champion entered the cage and had a battle of looks with the future opponents. A month and a half later, Jones entered his first title fight. Jones was a slight favorite, but everyone was well aware that the champion had much more experience. Everyone was wondering how good the boy is, who in 2 years has reached the title and can become the youngest owner of it. Even the most daring forecasters did not expect such a denouement. To begin with, the challenger exhausted the Brazilian ground so that after 3 minutes, he stopped breathing normally and gave up the advantage in the runoff. In the third round, good moments from the champion can be counted on the fingers of one hand, if they exist at all. Boney took advantage in all aspects, including on his feet against a tough Thai boxer, and with the help of his limbs, he kept a good distance. Round 3 turned into a beating, both on the ground and in the strike to the knockout. On this day, our today's hero became the strongest fighter in the world and the youngest champion in UFC history. 4th place. At this place, in the second defense of the championship belt, prior to that, he managed to walk on puncher Rampage Jackson, who used to be a champion, and strangled him in the 4th round. On December 11, Jon Jones went into the cage to defend his title against one of the best strikers in the division and former champion Lyoto Machida. At the beginning of the meeting, to the surprise of many, the advantage was on the side of the karate master. He came up with a great plan, countering the champion every time after a low kick. The champion did almost no damage for the entire segment, when the Brazilian delivered great punches right to the jaw. At the same time, he did not make a single takedown attempt. In the second round, both fighters added pressure. Jon Jones began to strike more and hit more often while transferring the enemy to the canvas, from where he cuts his forehead. Machida continued to work according to his plan, but the rush led him to sad consequences. During the break before the second segment, the champion was given a hint to make a fake low kick and meet the opponent with a blow. Jones masterfully completed the assignment and sent a skilled striker to the floor. After they both got up, Jones grabbed the opponent's neck and did not let go. He threw a guillotine in the rack and strangled the Brazilian to blackout. After stopping, Machida collapsed as if dead. This performance was another spectacular victory for Jones, and he again showed his level to the audience, even after losing the first round. 3rd place. In 2012 at UFC 152, Jones was going to fight against Dan Henderson, who defeated Mauricio Rua in the last fight at that time. And before that, he knocked out Fedor Emelianenko in Strikeforce. Unfortunately, Henderson was injured and they wanted to replace Lyoto Machida, but he refused the offer. Vitor Belfort volunteered to come on as a substitute, who had to move up from middleweight a month before the tournament. A lot of fighters and experts lean towards the champion in this confrontation, and for good reason: youth, anthropometry, skills, fighting intelligence, and freshness. And the fight at first fully lived up to expectations. Jones did not let his opponent near him and then transferred the Brazilian to canvas. Due to his carelessness, he almost lost his belt when the veteran grabbed his hand and went to the armbar. The champion's hand bent, and Jones himself barely endured the pain and did not knock. As a result, Jones got out of the trap, but until the end of the round, he hammered the opponent with his elbows in the stalls and cut his face. The second and third rounds were played in a cautious manner. The title holder kept the challenger at a distance, and in cases of transfers to the stalls, he was extremely careful and worked with his elbows. In the fourth round, the champion took the hand of the Brazilian. He later admitted that Belfort broke his arm at that moment. Although this fight did not become difficult for him for the most part, but the moment with the armbar showed the character and endurance of the fighter. Second place, 8th title defense. During this time, Jones managed to get through many fighters and many dangerous situations. Injuries and fractures during the fight, fights with dangerous strikers, a furious fight with Gustafsson, but never before had he come across a wrestler of such level and a person whom he hated so much as Daniel Cormier. In August 14, their battle was to take place, and before that, there was a real verbal war between them. They tried to tease each other on social networks, insulted each other at conferences and interviews, but the boiling point was a duel of looks between two men who could not contain their emotions. Cormier pushed the champion, for which the champion simply pounced on him and threw back everyone who stood in his way. The champion was injured and the fight was postponed to January 15. The fight took place, and it was a great confrontation. An undefeated stocky Olympic wrestler, Strikeforce Grand Prix heavyweight champion, and good standing skills. In other words, he was someone who, with his data, always succeeded in any path through hard work and defeated many. On the contrary, there was a real unique, an athlete to the marrow of his bones, incredible talent and much more. Opposition of talent and hard work. It's time for a fight. The fighters from the very beginning flooded each other and imposed a fast pace. Jones moved DC, who quickly got up. The difference in size is simply incredible. You can see how much Daniel is smaller than the opponent and how hard it is for him to deliver his blows. The second round was held in a mutual shootout. The fighters did not spare each other and planted with all their might, demonstrating their dislike for each other. In the third round, Cormier took the advantage due to the abundance of accident punches, but it became noticeable how he slowly began to run out of breath. In the fourth, the champion showed his wrestling skills and twice transferred the captain of the Olympic freestyle wrestling team. In the fifth round, the fighters started with a small exchange and then drowned in the clinch, from which DC was able to grab the opponent and throw him to the canvas. They also exchanged a couple of blows after the final gong. But this was not enough to take the victory, and after 5 rounds, Jones won by unanimous decision with a score of 49-46 of all judges. Their enmity did not subside, and years later they met in revenge for the title, which was already owned by Cormier. The result of the battle has been cancelled, so we won't focus on it much, and even now they occasionally tease each other. First place. So, the first place, many of you already know what the fight is going to be right now. Therefore, we propose to remember this masterpiece all together. At the time of their first meeting, Jones already had 5 title defenses, and the new challenger should not have drawn much opposition. At this time, the Swede was approaching the fight on a 6-win streak and had excellent skills for the light heavyweight division. Excellent boxing, good wrestling, dimensions, which even against the background of Jones were equal to him. A lot of fans were waiting for the victory over the next contender, and an easy victory, because before that, the champion had already managed to defeat many tough contenders and fighters of the old school, and the new threat should not have hindered him much, but in the end, we got the most competitive fight of Jones' career. The first round went fairly smoothly. While the fighters continued to throw hundreds of punches, they did not forget about technique and defense. Gustafsson became the first fighter in the UFC to take Jones to the ground. The Swedish Viking did not experience major problems in any of the fields of action. From the very beginning, it was clear that this was a battle between 2 high-class mixed-style fighters. The second round only increased the heat. The fighters switched to the other side and began to thrust with all their might. Alexander, oddly enough, was better on his hands than his opponent, even with Jones' frantic arm length. The cut from the first round became even larger. Not a single attempt to transfer to the ground from Jon was unsuccessful. In the third, it got even worse. Kicks, elbows, clinch, everything was in this fight, and not a single thoughtless blow or swing. Everything is clear and to the point, so the Viking also shocked the enemy. In the fourth round, the champion delivered a fateful elbow that shocked the Viking. The fifth round was marked by a good shootout and a single takedown from Jones. Following the results of 5 rounds, the victory was awarded by unanimous decision to Jon Jones. It turned out to be a very close duel and incredibly spectacular. A year later, this fight was inducted into the Hall of Fame of the organization. Fans still remember this fight as one of the best fights in UFC history. After 5 years, there was a revenge for the champion title, which was vacant. During this time, a lot happened. Jones managed to lose his title due to problems with the law, win an interim title, then fail a drug test before the fight with Cormier. After a while, he fought with Daniel, but again failed the drug test and lost it. Gustafsson managed to lose by knockout to Anthony Johnson and again roll up the massacre for the title against Cormier, but lost by a split decision. After the first fight, many were arguing about the result of the fight, and it was time to put all the points. They were many words before the tournament. How was the fight itself? In the first round, Bones landed more punches and looked better overall. The Swede was a bit passive. In the second round, the Viking became more active and worked perfectly on his hands due to perfect boxing. At the same time, the former champion worked perfectly with his feet on the floors. In the third round, Jones brought his opponent to the ground and beat him to a stoppage, the conclusion of the feud and the return of the belt to the light heavyweight king. This concludes our rating. Perhaps in the near future, we will have to look at this in a new weight category for him. It is not known how his full-fledged transition to heavyweight will turn out, but we can absolutely say that with a high degree of probability, he will be remembered as the most talented and developed in all aspects in the history of mixed martial arts. Subscribe to the channel, don't forget to like. Good luck to all.